Here in Texas, an Army Judge Advocate General officer instructed a room full of soldiers that they will not be allowed to personally express any opinions against homosexuality or gays in the military unless they are in a religious service where the subject has been announced in advance. Are we watching the assassination of free speech in America right before our eyes? We'd better talk about it. And we will today on Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it. I'll have to confess, I am absolutely stunned. Now, I saw it coming, but to actually know that it has now happened is making me incredulous. It's very difficult to believe, and yet I know this agenda has been on schedule for a long time. Here's the story. The government is now telling soldiers they don't have freedom of speech in the gay debate. Now, this announcement coming on the heels of the announcement that a judge yesterday denied the appeal against the ruling overthrowing Proposition 8 in California. Let me make sure you got that. Proposition 8 was passed by the people of California. I think that was back in 2008. It said that in the Constitution of California that marriage must be between a man and a woman. That's the only legitimate definition of marriage. Well, now that it's in the California Constitution, the reason that was produced is because the people promoting the same-sex marriage had found a sympathetic judge, and they had received a ruling which created same-sex marriage in California. So the people of California, not wanting same-sex marriage, got it on the ballot, and they passed a constitutional amendment against it. Well, but the gays were not satisfied with that. Now they decide to use the courts again because they know that they are in the overwhelming minority. They know that the majority of Americans say, wait a minute, marriage has been between a man and a woman since the beginning of time. For the thousands of years of human history, marriage has always, 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 always been between a man and a woman. Now all of a sudden, you're coming along with this convoluted concept that two men can marry? A lot of people would try to tell us that two men can have children, but it's never happened yet. It's never been possible yet. Or two women can have children together. Cannot happen. You know, some things are just true. If you don't like the fact that 1 + 1 is 2, I don't know what to tell you. Because tomorrow 1 + 1 is still going to be 2, and 2 + 2 is still going to be 4. And just because you stand up in front of a crowd and say 1 + 1 = 3, 1 + 1 = 3, 1 + 1 = 3, that does not mean 1 + 1 = 3. So here we have it. We are hearing the continual bombardment of sound bites against us that homosexuality is a natural state of being, and that same-sex people, men should be able to marry men and women should be able to marry women. But you look out in the barnyard and they're not. And you look out in the jungle and they're not. And you look at all creation and they're not. And you look at the one who created everything and he said we shouldn't. And yet we have become so arrogant, so high and lifted up. We say God is stupid. God doesn't know what he's talking about when he says it's an abomination. I'm smarter than God. I think it's discrimination if you speak against homosexuality. Okay. Now, before we get too far down this pike, I want to make sure you understand what's going on here. There is a concerted campaign to ram homosexuality down your throat, and if they can't get it down your throat, they certainly intend to ram it down your children's throat. They have already taken control of the schools, of the sex education, every venue they can get their hands on. They are harping away on it continually. Now, there is a bulwark against this sewer of immorality that is spilling over our nation. The same people that campaign for clean rivers are pouring sewage into our mental rivers. Isn't that a paradox? So here we are, as we are attempting to establish a bulwark against this absolute perversion of moral values that the human family has held and embraced for all recorded history. Right now, we're seeing the flushing down the sewer of the moral values that mankind has held since the beginning and which was given to us by our Creator. Now they're trying to flush it down the sewer. There's one bulwark against it, and that's the Holy Bible. The Scripture emphatically, with no compromise, declares that sex between same-sex partners is an abomination. Now, just for the record, let me read a couple of verses here, because this is being challenged by the President of the United States. I stood stunned as I listened to him make his speech at the Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, Transgender Conference in 2009. He said that the time will come when relationships between two men and two women will be just as real and just as admired as a relationship between a man and a woman. I listened to that. The gays, the bisexuals, the transgenders, the lesbians, they came to their feet stomping and clapping, and they were ecstatic because now they got their guy in the highest office in the land. And I looked at that and said, how did America elect such a person? I don't know how it happened in this nation that's been founded on Judeo-Christian values. There's only one way it happened. We've lost our Judeo-Christian values. Anybody that could vote for a person, whether Democrat or Republican, whether black or white, I don't care about those issues. Don't hide behind those issues. Anybody that could elect a person with that kind of moral values, what does it say about us? America elected this man. Now, it's not just Barack Obama. George W. Bush before him. Now, he stood against same-sex marriage to a degree, and yet he appointed open gays to fill high offices in the land and to recognize their legitimacy. So don't put it all on Barack Obama. That Barack Obama is not the issue. I'm simply pointing out he's presently our president. Okay. So what's happened now? Let me jump down to the court case because this just came down yesterday. The judge, Judge Walker, who ruled, now, as soon as I found out that Judge Walker was presiding over the case to try to overthrow the constitutional amendment passed by the people of California, I knew it was going to be overthrown. How did I know? Because Judge Walker himself was gay. You think he's going to rule against same-sex marriage when he's gay? And sure enough, he overthrew it. In spite one man's will against all of California. He said, this is unconstitutional. Now, this was in federal court. They couldn't do it in state court because now the state courts are controlled by the state constitution. Therefore, they had to interpret the law in light of California's constitution. Well, by now, because of this amendment being passed, California's constitution said no same-sex marriage. So they knew enough not to go to a state court. Now they're going to go to a federal court because there's no constitutional amendment there that specifically says no same-sex marriage. So now then, since they're going to a federal court, now this judge says, well, I believe the Constitution says that all people have equal rights and therefore they should be able to marry. You know, does that really compute, though, if all people have equal rights? Does that mean everybody should get what everybody else gets, whether they qualify or not? My mind is reeling right now as I'm trying to think of an example where that would be totally untrue. Maybe I'll think of something as we go along, but the fact is, here in the United States of America, our laws are designed to treat people fairly. Let me ask you this. Well, I can think of an example. Let's say that a person is a pedophile. Somebody likes little children, whether it's male or female. So, if a man who is 40 likes a child who is 9, does he have an equal right with a male who likes a male? So should the man 40 be able to marry the little girl or little boy that's 9? We're saying we have equal rights here, right? We're saying that two men can marry together even though they've never done it. We're saying that two women can marry together even though they've never done it. So where will this end? You say, oh, it'll never go to pedophilia. Don't you kid yourself. It already did in the days of Rome, only they never legalized marriage. It was just a practice of society. If you studied your history, you know it's the case. Well, that's where we're headed back again, because we're following the same road to moral debauchery that Rome followed. Now, that's what's happening right now. But the thing is, President Obama is an avowed promoter of homosexuality. It's very obvious. He promised the gays when he was running for office, I will help you. And he didn't do it until he saw he could get by with it. And when he saw the American people have absorbed so much pornography that it no longer shocks them, and saw that we have had our moral values so worn down and our allegiance to the scriptures has been loosened to the point where we're not sure we believe the Bible anymore. He believes this nation is ripe for the picking for the gay agenda. So now he's pushing it. I mean, it just wasn't one thing. Now we've got this court case. Now we've got don't ask, don't tell. Now then, the legal advisors of the armed forces are saying to our soldiers, you can't even talk about it in the chow room. We're going to take away your freedom of speech because the freedom of same-sex marriage and homosexuality has to supersede everything else. Now, I'm not talking to you about something that could happen. I am telling you something that's already happened, ladies and gentlemen, but the battle's not over. And if you'll get engaged, and if I'll get engaged, we can still win this thing. We better do it.
Endtime Ministries presents End of the Age, a 30-minute commercial-free TV show hosted by Irvin Baxter. Every Monday, End of the Age airs on the church channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. On End of the Age, Irvin depicts how modern issues like an establishment of a one-world government, the religion of Islam, a coming World War III, and more line up so clearly with Bible prophecies written over 2,000 years ago. To get tomorrow's news today, be sure to tune into End of the Age every Monday on the church channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. Visit endtime.com for more details or call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
The Bible prophesies about 4 great spirits which control